Hello to everybody. My name is Carlos Roldán. I am a Bitcoin developer, and today I'll be talking about Lightning as a solution to scale off-chain. And I contribute to many projects in the area, but I won't be talking about any project about. I'll just be talking about the technology infrastructure. Okay, so Lightning appears as a solution because there is obviously a problem. And such problem is like Bitcoin cannot scale on-chain. And we know this because the average maximum transactions per second is 7, which is quite limited, especially if we compare with transaction processors such as the standards nowadays like Visa, which is 24K transactions per second. So it's not anymore a digital cash system, but it's digital gold. Can be used as a means of value, as a reserve that you can transfer. But because its nature properties, it's not anymore a digital cash system. So we came up with Lightning Network, and it's a second layer protocol. It's a protocol. This means that it's added into the base protocol, which is the Bitcoin-based protocol, which such features are instant transactions, free or low, non-noticeable fees within the transactions, and microtransactions. The fact to send a fraction of a cent with no cost and no time is a disruptive element of this technology. In order to proceed with this presentation, I'd like to have a glossary so you can guys know what are some basic terms within the technology stack of Lightning Network. So we have the nodes. The nodes are the member of the network, and each node has a balance in order to cooperate with other nodes. Then we have channels. A channel within the Lightning Network is a payment link between two nodes, which means it's bidirectional, and it has a capacity. The capacity stands for the maximum amount of balance that can be transactable between two nodes. And as an example of a capacity, let's say that I have a node with another peer, and the capacity is 3. I will not be able to send more than 3. And we have the transactions, which requires a channel to go through. So what means to open a channel? When you have a channel open with somebody in the network, you're creating the opportunity to create transactions to that node. But as I said before, each channel has a capacity, which this stands for the maximum amount that you can transfer. And this is very important to consider, because if you don't have a routing through a particular node due to the capacity element, you will not be able to perform that transaction. This is interesting because you can route transactions for other peers. Let's say that if I have a channel with him, and you have a channel with me, and your intention is to create a transaction from your side to his side, and I have a channel open with both parties, I can route that transaction for you at a fee cost. So I can add a fee, so I can route transactions and earn money within the network, earn Bitcoin. In this example, Alice wants to create a transaction to Charlie, and this transaction is routed through Bob from Alice to Charlie. Now there are some topics important to consider at the time of open any particular channel within the network. We have the topics related with the network topology, and it's important when you want to open a channel with a particular node to check the history of the node, which is how long has been in the network operating. This is very important, so you have a history of how reliable can be this node to open. As well as the age of the node, we have the age of the channels. Each channel, when it's open, it has a timestamp. And this is important to consider, so you can be how reliable is the channel operator, which is the node, and the actual channel itself. The uptime of the node, which means when was the last time that node was online and for how long was online, because sometimes the nodes can get congested for their channels, or they cannot get online, and there are some availability problems. The routing fees. The routing fees stands for the fees in the transaction that you may have. Eventually, if you want to create a channel with another node to route transactions, you can create a high fee, low fee. It depends on you as you have the decision to do it. So it's important to consider the fees. I said before it was no cost to create transactions because there is the option to have no fees. So it's important to consider what's the routing element in terms of fees too, and as well to create channels with others. Then the reliability node is composed by creating a small payment at one Satoshi to check how reliable is the node to create that transaction. If it's routing well, and you can track it because it's publicly available, this information. Then we have the properties. Those elements and criteria for opening a channel, it was related for the network topology, which is how the network operates and as a behavior of the entire network. Then we have the node, the singular element of each node. And you can check how you can increase your centrality as a node. And I will show you later on in a few screenshots in a website how can you improve your centrality and become more centralized within the network. How you can increase your probability to have well-founded nodes, routes, and connecting those points to other interesting nodes that you may be attracted to have. How can you improve the network topology? By creating the triangle element. So you can have 3 nodes connected in terms of the network instead of 2 channels and becoming less bidirectional. The geography, so there are users that they are likely to use this transaction processor for services and products that they are nearby the area. So it's important to consider if that's an element when you want to create a channel. Oh. One second. Okay, sorry for that. So how it works the routing? This is a bit more technical of how it works. You have this element which is called pathfinding. This is an interesting way to find nodes in order to route transactions and connect to them, because a routing path is elaborated from 2 nodes, and it's interesting to take into account that before any route to be locked in advance, you have to take into account that there are nodes that their channels are getting congested, they're appearing, they're disappearing, so it's constantly changing. And it's an issue to create a reliable path in advance when this is not static. There are different implementations to route transactions such as AMP, which basically stands for creating a transaction, split it into smaller units, so there is no chance of a channel to create congested. And it uses different routing paths. I'm going to show you a representation of a small network about how it works. Okay, well, it seems like it's not working. But in this representation, you see that there are 6 nodes. Each one is connected through 2 channels, so each node has 2 channels, one for coming and one coming forward. And you will see that here, you will have some funds are in one side of the channel, which are the node funds in that particular channel, and some other funds are in the other part of the channel. What happens here is an analysis of the behavior of this small network and how it interacts by creating small transactions, and you can see how the balances from each channel is in one side of the node or in other. In some cases, getting some channels congested and some other don't. So that's how is the scenario of representing this. There are the additional features that they are building on top of Lightning Network, such as autopilot, watchtowers, node rebalances. Those are features such as the autopilot can create channels automatically based on the interest of each particular node. Watchtowers are basically units that they watch for transactions between channels, so you can decide if a particular channel is no longer of your interest. So you can evaluate which channel is more likely to be efficient for you in terms of routing. Node rebalance is likely to happen that at some point your nodes or your channels between those nodes are congested or not available. So it rebalances those balances within the capacity channels so you can reuse them. The third proxy is basically a proxy that works between the Lightning Network protocol, so it no longer can be detected your IP addresses. So this improves radically your privacy. And there is loop, which is basically a new feature implemented that basically connects on-chain and off-chain to create a combination of the autopilot and the node rebalance system. There are more features that they are building, but yeah, those are six of the main ones. There are some applications in the real world, and some of them are related with digital identity. You can create a digital signature built on civil resistance of the network, such as Satoshi's games, that has one implemented already in production. Or you can have microtransactions as a service, so you can monetize your API based on optimizing its usage. In this case, SureBits, they have an API for sports, especially on the States. They are doing NFL and NBA API, and it's optimized its usage by creating a microtransaction each time the API is performing a call. So this is a dynamic pricing for creating microservices based on micro prices. This is how was the network, Lightning Network, on January 2018. We can see that it was 43 nodes, 68 channels, and a capacity around 9,932 US dollars, which is anything related to how it's right now. This is just a few months after, in May. We can see this congestion of the network, and the numbers has just exploded. So we have this network is highly populated of nodes, highly populated of channels, and its capacity is maximum. But we haven't even come to this time, and I'm going to show you how it looks now. Well, I'll show how are the numbers after this presentation, and you will see it more in detail. This is the actual ecosystem, how it looks right now. We see that it has grown so much in a commerce basics, because we can see there are already markets and products and services ready for this adoption. Since wallets to adoption of the network, gaming platforms, there are also development platforms, resources, actual applications built on Lightning. This is growing. Right now, this is a small amount of the products available. There are much more in development. There are much more products and services that they are not listed in this graph. And yeah. There are a few ways to run your own node, from development ways, which are interesting for developers, to normal business people that they want to run on their own node if they're interested in microtransactions. We have the Raspberry Blitz. It's a Lightning node open source project. It's fun for developers. You can have a Lightning and Bitcoin full node in a Raspberry Pi, and yeah, it's very interesting. Then we have other nodes that they are just plug and play. Basically, you buy those nodes, and then they are already set up, and it's easy to start. such as Casa Node. And then we have cloud solutions, such as BTC Pay Server, also open source, and you can do a one-click installation of the node via Azure, Cloud, or Luna Node. We have a Telegram group where we discuss the development, and it's an active group of Lightning Network. That's the link, and I can redirect you after if you meet me outside. And yeah, that's pretty much how is the Lightning Network in development right now. There are stable branches of the Lightning Network. There are different implementations of the protocol. And yeah, there are any questions that someone wants to ask about the Lightning Network? Okay, so that was it. Thank you very much.